Clause 4.2, it is all about interested parties and stakeholders. So the agenda for today is I'm just going to give you a brief overview quickly of who is Crest Advisory Africa and what do we offer, and then the understanding of the high-level structure of Clause 4.2, and then the practical implementation model for Clause 4.2. And then if you've got questions, please feel free then and contact Crest Advisory Africa is on the last page. So who are we? Crest Advisory Africa has been established by myself, Nico Snyman. I'm the founder and the CEO of Crest Advisory Africa, and this was founded on the 13th of June 2014. So we are this year 12 years old. Very blessed. So thank you very much. CAA, or Crest Advisory Africa, is contracted with 3 certification bodies, namely the PECB, the Professional Evaluation Certification Board, that is specifically for the certification of people. Then the MSECB, that is the Management Systems Evaluation Certification Body. And then DQS, the MSECB is in Canada, and DQS, the ISO Management System Certifications, is in Germany. So just a quick overview. We've got 6 offerings that we are putting out there. The first one is our training. Training is everything is international certified, and this is ISO trainings. So we are doing trainings in about 58 disciplines, from ISO 31000, 18788, 22301, 27001, 9001, etc., up till 45,000. That is the health and safety one. So everything we are doing there in training, and we are mostly having our foundation courses, the lead implementer courses, and lead auditor courses. Then going through with the auditing service. The auditing service is we are doing internal audits as well as external audits, so second-party audits as well as third-party audits. Advisory service, every discipline that we have got in the training category is also here in the advisory service. So we are doing implementation, consultation, advisory service on all those disciplines. Then we have got our flagship. This is the Isolytics GRC software. So if for people that don't know GRC, that is governance, risk, and compliance. So we've got about 14, 15 modules, and these modules are addressing risk management, audit services, compliance software, document management software, checklist software, know your customer, asset management, business impact analysis, and more. And then we have got the second last one is international ISO certification audits. We are doing these audits through the MSECB, as I have stated earlier, as well as DQS in Germany. And we are busy with partners with other certification bodies as well. And then our last offering, that is not the least, but the last one here, is leadership development. So leadership development is about coaching, is about helping leadership in advancing their businesses in terms of management systems and structures and how to deal with it. So the understanding of the high-level structure, I will address that specifically now, and then we will go over to clause 4.2. So if you're looking at the high-level structure, does it really matter? Absolutely. Now in 2015, just to give you a bit of background, before 2015, all the certifiable standards was having its own structure. It was all over the place, really. If you look at ISO 13485, the medical devices standard versus 9001, it is 2 different standards. It is 2 different approaches. If you're looking at 27001 versus ISO 14000 or 45000, it is 2 different approaches. So if you're looking at the high-level structure, in 2015, ISO decided to actually streamline the structures that all the structures of all the certifiable standards looks the same. So whether you are tapping into 9001, 14,000, 27,001, 22301, etc., all of them has got the core structure and terminology, and the clause sequence remain the same throughout every standard. So this makes it very easy, really, that if you are integrating 2 or 3 standards, that all the standards are speaking the same language. All the standards has got the same terminology, and all the standards has got the same core structure. So the design was intentional to enable integration, reduce duplication, and secure consistency across governance, risk compliance, and assurance disciplines. So at the heart of the high-level structure, the HLS, lies clause 4, the context of the organization, and specifically that we are going to be addressing today is clause 4.2, understanding the needs and expectations of your interested parties. Very important clause, this one. So this clause is a strategic anchor point, often underestimated, frequently under-implemented, and commonly raised as a finding during certification audits. I can confirm that. We are doing audits all over the world, and especially in terms of international standards, ISO. And every year, whether you are going out there for the initial audit, for a stage 1 audit and a stage 2 audit, it seems like people have misread and don't understand what is clause 4. It is in the standard, yes. There are shells, absolutely. But do I really have to do it? I just want to go to the operational part in clause 8. No, you need to be structured. This is strategic management. And strategic management has got steps how you are actually building an effective company. And this is based on that. Absolutely. So the high level structure, I'm going to give you an example here of ISO 42001. Now, ISO 42001 is artificial intelligence. It is the newest standard out of the box now, actually, at the moment. And if you look at this standard versus a standard that is written in 2015 and approved in 2015, like the ISO 9001, 14,000, even 18788 in 26, also in 2015, all the structures looks the same. So firstly, it is actually built on a PDCA, the Plan, Do, Check and Act of ISO. So if you look at the planning part you will see here is actually in pink. So the contents of the organization, leadership and planning. So all of that, and you will see here in the left column, 4.2, is understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. All of this is exactly the same in every standard that you can certify against. So very simple. So the first pillar there is the context of the organization in clause 4. In clause 5 is leadership. Clause 6 is planning. Clause 7 is support. This is where your doing part is kicking in. So the support and operations, and then your checking and your acting. Your checking is your performance evaluations with your monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation, internal audit and management review. And then the acting part is continuous improvement. Always continuous improvement. This is the forward-lookingness of ISO. You need to look forward. You need to have a continual improvement strategy, always. And then in your clause 9.1, 9.2, etc., is non-conformities that has been issued or raised, and the closing out of the non-conformities. And that is the high-level structure. It is not difficult. I think here's about 18, 20 steps. So these 18, 20 steps, if you study this and you know this, my friend, you will ease through each and every interview, because this is what people are asking. And sometimes you, as the interviewee, are sitting there and wondering, where does this question come from? Where does this question come from? Here it is. Everything that you need to know about the management system is on this page. It is as high level as you can get it. And this is internationally implemented, internationally accepted in 164 countries. So if you want to go and change things, you can change it, but you will change it back to this. You can add it, absolutely, not a problem. You can enhance it, not a problem, but you cannot duplicate it. You cannot actually better this. This has been in operations from uh, Edward Deming's time in 1943. This is old and established standards and structures. So let's go over to clause 4.2. What is actually required? Now, if you are looking at clause 4.2, it is a very simple clause. It states, clause 4.2 states that the organization shall. Now that word shall gives you no room for changes because that is a requirement in the standard. You cannot negotiate it. You cannot partially implement it. You cannot do what you want. You shall do what the standard is stipulating and what the standard is asking for you to be certified against the standard. So shall determine the interested parties that are relevant to the management system, determine their relevant needs and expectations, and monitor and review this information. Now, this is in every standard. Simple, straightforward. So if you're looking at the three key obligations is firstly, identify your interested parties. Identify the relevant needs and expectations from those interested parties. And then monitor and review the changes over time. So every 6 months, every year, you need to review it. You need to make sure that you are checking in with your interested parties. You need to make sure that you are consulting with your interested parties. It is not that they are on a list and now you don't see them anymore. So importantly, ISO does not require you to satisfy all the expectations, only those that are relevant and that may affect the management system's ability to achieve its intended outcomes. Only that. It is not unfair. ISO is not unfair at all. We as auditors are not unfair at all. You as the auditee need to prove to us and need to provide evidence to us to actually indicate that these are our relevant interested parties. These are their needs and expectations. And this is how we are monitoring and taking it forward. So who are the interested parties? And guys, if you don't have a list, make a list. Get a list because this is super important. Interested parties, also referred to as stakeholders, are individuals or entities that can affect, be affected by, or perceive themselves to be affected by your organization's activities. Now, if you're looking at the categories, is customer and clients, regulators, employees, shareholders, board, suppliers, partners, certification bodies, society, banks, everybody that is actually impacting your business and that your business can impact them. Everyone need to be listed in the category space. So whether you've got, if you're talking there about the employees, permanent staff, contractors, I am talking there also about employee organizations like unions, trade unions. They need to be on this list because if you want to do something and the unions are saying, this is unethical, or we don't want to do that, or this require retraining and X, Y, and Z, you need to listen to them because you are affecting or be affected or perceive themselves to be affected by your organization. You are deciding that, okay, we don't work 8 hours a day. Now we work 9 hours a day. Can you unilaterally implement that? I don't think so. You are going to have a zero business there. So customers, your service recipients, the contract holders, your regulators, on data protection. If you are in a bank, the banks. If you are in insurance, the insurance regulator. So all the regulators that is involved there. Employees, permanent staff, contractors, employee organization, shareholders and board. Simple. Suppliers and partners, IT vendors, cloud providers. What is your suppliers and partners? With one of the companies that we have consulted with in risk management across the whole business, we were asking them, please give us your suppliers and partners. And it took them 2 days. Instead of this need to be on your fingertips that you can actually see who is your strategic suppliers, who is your critical, your mission critical suppliers, who are the suppliers that you need to look closely and work closely with and inform any changes that is happening in your environment. Certification bodies, definitely. Society is um, the client that I was talking about now. They are actually working in a community um, with a mine in a community, and they cannot work there if they don't have a social license. If they don't have the social license to operate, they cannot work there because the society, the communities are going to lock them out. Because there's always differences between what is the objectives of the mine and what is the objectives of the community. In a mine, mining is very dependent on water. And for the community, they are saying, but you are stealing our water. So the community is blaming the mines for the cattle that is dying, for the crops that is dying, because there's no water. But the mine is using thousands of liters a day. So why are our crops dying? So, and that could derail everything that you have got there. The same stakeholder may have different expectations depending on the ISO standard being applied. Absolutely. Whether it is environmental, then your communities, NGOs, public organizations, etc., are going to have different expectations, and you need to lock those, and you need to determine how can we close those out. In this space here, in the society one here, one of the biggest expectations that this community has got is that because this mine is in the middle of nowhere, it is 160 kilos from either side to the nearest town. Now, if you look at that, what is the community asking there? They don't want. They know that these guys are mining diamonds, or gold, or platinum, or something. They want hospital services. Hospital services. Now the mine can ask for a license. They can apply for a license. They've got a hospital. They've got a hospital on site now. And that is for the whole of the community. So that is one of the expectations that is not mining relevant, but they've got it. And they need to work close with those people to make sure that all of them are being looked after. So the practical implementation model of clause 4. Firstly, step 1, identify the interested parties. Structured, not ad hoc. So this needs to be a structured approach. How are you doing it? So the best practice approach is to document your interested parties in a formal register. And ISO doesn't say this formal register, but it implies it. You need to make sure that you've got record of all your interested parties. So your interested parties, your customer, employees, regulators, etc., in your register, and then your relationships. Receive services, deliver services, enforces compliance, verifies conformity, supports infrastructure. All of those need to be listed in a formal register. And that formal register is part and parcel of your documentation that you are going to present to the ISO auditors. This register should be consistent across all ISO standards, forming the backbone of an integrated management system. And integration in ISO, this is why the high-level structure has been created. Because of integration. We don't want 3 or 4 different systems running at the same place, and each one has got its own requirements. No, man, that is duplication. We also don't want to audit you 5, 6, 7 times a year. We can audit you once because of the integration of the management system. We can do that once. Simple. Step 2, identify the needs and expectations, and this need to be mapped to the risk. Now, if you're looking at the risk, we will talk about that in clause 6 when we get there in this webinar series. Not all expectations are equal. ISO expects relevance-based filtering. So is this relevant on you? Is this relevant on your management system? Is this relevant on your business? Is this relevant or not? So firstly, the interest parties, this is back again to your register. So your interest parties, your customers, employees, regulators, IT suppliers, their needs and expectations. Customers, we demand confidentiality of our data. Absolutely. Employees want job security. The regulator in this space, ISO 27701, that is personal data. Is it POPIA or your personal information regulations compliant? Your suppliers, are they clear and unambiguous SLAs, service level agreements? Is it relevant? Yes. Indirectly, absolutely. And then what is your reason? Affect the trust and compliance. Employees, HR related, not ISMS call. The regulators, legal obligations, the IT suppliers, and your service level agreements affects availability and integrity. And then this step is where clause 4.2 directly links to the risk-based thinking in clause 6. I have said it when I have started with this slide. We will speak about clause 6 when we get to the clause 6 in the webinars. Step number 3, link the clause 4.2 to other ISOs, and specifically the other ISO clauses. Now, if you're looking in the standard itself, clause 4.2 is not a standalone exercise. It feeds directly into clause 5, leadership, in terms of governance responsibilities. Clause 6, planning, with your risk opportunities and your objectives. Clause 8, operations, controls and processes. Clause 9, performance evaluation, monitoring stakeholder satisfaction. So your performance evaluation in clause 9, and then going over, you can link clause 7 with your resources, clause 10 with continuous improvement, because it will stem out of this. So if clause 4.2 is weak, these clauses will fail under audit scrutiny. It's a domino effect. If you haven't got a strong 4.1 and 4.2, all the other clauses are actually like a domino. It just falls over. It is so simple because none of those can be audited alone. Clause 5 doesn't stand alone. Clause 6 doesn't stand alone. Clause 7 doesn't stand alone. All of those clauses are interlinking. And if you miss the interlinkings, it is not then you have missed the process approach in terms of ISO. Example of 4.2 across multiple ISO disciplines and standards. Integrated example. Here's an integration for you in terms of ISO 9001, 27001, and 22301. So 9001, for people that don't know it, this is quality management. 27001 is information security management system, and then 22301 is business continuity. So the interested parties here, customers, employees, and your regulators in ISO 9001, quality of service, competence, product compliance, in 27001, data protection, security awareness, data protection laws, and 22301, this is where you are actually making sure that there is no severe or continuous interruptions in your business, is service continuity, emergency roles, and critical service continuity. Now, this critical service continuity, if you look at 9001 quality management, it is about your product and your product and your services. Emergencies in terms of quality in a factory, in a manufacturing environment, if there's any problems with the quality, that is going to create for you emergencies later on, definitely. So this demonstrates the power of the high-level structure. One stakeholder register, multiple lenses. So if we go over to the common audit findings related to clause 4.2, certification bodies, where we are, as Crest Advisor Africa, are auditors for, frequently raise non-conformities where, firstly, interested parties are not listed but not reviewed as well, or they are listed but not reviewed. So the information that they've got is old. Needs and expectations are generic or copied. There is no consultation. It is just somebody that sat in a corner and applied a bit of his mind, not even a full mind. No link exists between clause 4.2 and risk assessments. Yep. Clause 6. This is what I was talking about earlier. The register exists, but is not used operationally. Why not? Because somebody operationally is going to be talking to the union. They're going to be speaking to employees. They are going to be speaking to your suppliers. They need to be speaking to those people, and they need to be or implemented to make sure that they are working and that they are tested. So auditors expect evidence that clause 4.2 is alive, not a static document. Good practices and tips for sustainable compliance. Firstly, review interested parties at least annually. At least. If you can review it every quarter, then it is going to be for you less time actually at the end of the year. Update after major changes. So major changes in mergers, in new regulations, in incidents, in anything that is actually affecting the whole of your organization and your business and your service. Align clause 4.2 with risk registers and compliance obligations. Super important. You cannot work with a space where you've got your stakeholders on the one side and you are doing business on the other side. You are not an island. You have to work in a specific space, and that space need to be integrated with the specific requirements that is actually within that specific space. Use consistent terminology across all the ISO standards. Consistent terminology. And treat clause 4.2 as a governance tool, not as an admin exercise. Please, it is all of these things are supposed to drive your business to be better, to understand your business and to grow and see opportunities. It is not there as a paper exercise. Really. Who do you want to impress? Not the auditors. We can see through it. Absolutely. Because asking one or two or three questions and you are at the end of your experience, of your knowledge base. You don't know what is happening further, firstly. And then secondly, you don't have evidence. You don't have any documentary, technical, analytical, confirmative, physical, and mathematical evidence. You've just got verbal evidence. And verbal evidence in any audit is the least reliable. I want to say it again. Verbal evidence is the least reliable. We hear it, but we want other evidence to actually confirm what you are saying. If you cannot confirm what you are saying, guys, Your words are empty. The strategic value of clause 4.2. So when implemented properly, clause 4.2 strengthens governance and oversight, improves risk anticipation, enhances regulatory readiness, enables true ISO integration, and reduces audit friction and findings. This one here, audit friction and findings, is that the auditor expects this. The standard has actually explained this. The standard guidelines has stipulated it. And we as the auditors, we are just applying that. And we are asking you to please come and provide us with evidence. And now you are lacking the evidence, and now you are angry at us. We are just measuring you against all the other systems that we have already audited, firstly, but the main thing is we are auditing you against the wording and the vocabulary of the specific standard. So why do they need to be friction and findings? If you are understanding the same things as us, we are not very clever people. We are not geniuses, really. None of us are. We can just read and apply. And we are getting experience as we are going along and what we have done as well. So immature organizations, clause 4.2 becomes the lens through which strategy, risk, and assurance are aligned. So you need to make sure that the lenses that you are looking through is the same that we are looking through. Like these glasses, not special, same glasses as what you can get. So closing thoughts. The ISO high-level structure was designed to move organizations away from siloed compliance and towards integrated, context-aware management systems. Clause 4.2 is the starting point of that journey. And get clause 4.2 right, and the rest of the ISO system starts working with you, not against you. And this can very easily, if you are not prepared, if you haven't got the evidence, if you cannot explain it, and if you cannot prove it, this can turn against you. It is then working against you. It's not we that is working against you. It's yourself. You have created the situation. You have created that conditions, not we as the auditors. We are just marking your exam. This is what we are doing. And we are doing a verbal exam, we're doing a practical exam, we're doing all these exams. So you are failing yourself. We are not failing you. We are just the guys that is actually there to make sure that you are compliant with a standard, that you are not qualifying for the Olympic Games and you are running in the 100 meters, but you are running 20 seconds instead of 9.5, like the people that you need to compete with. But now you are angry at the timekeepers. That cannot be. So you are angry at yourself. So start working with yourself, not against yourself. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. We are here for you. I am going to give 2 minutes to see if there is any questions coming in. While that is happening, I am just going to explain to you. We are going to have every second week on the high level structure of ISO for the rest of the year. We will have every second week, we will have one clause in the standard that we are looking at. So last week was clause 4.1. This week is 4.2. In 2 weeks' time is going to be 4.3. That is going to be the scope environment, and then going to be 4.4 2 weeks later. In between, we will also possibly do webinars in terms of our other offerings, of our GRC software, that you can see, that we can demonstrate to you what are we doing and how are we doing things, and how is the best practices of the international standards built into corporate governance and compliance and assurance software. And this is exactly what I was saying on page 2 or 3 when I started this webinar. I see that there's not questions that is coming in, so I will be closing off. So if you want to contact us, please, there's our particulars, everything. You can contact me. My email is there, my WhatsApp is there, everything at the bottom of the page. And this is all the qualifications and standards that I am personally qualified in, and my structure as well. So thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate to see you again. This video will be tomorrow morning on YouTube, on our channel. You can also go and get it there. Thank you very much, everyone, and good afternoon. Cheerios.